Welcome to the Winning Edge podcast, where we share focus, fueling, and faith-filled stories and strategies to give young athletes the tools they need to become the best version of themselves as athletes and individuals.
What you eat and how you think can transform your athletic performance and overall well-being. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or fitness enthusiast looking to gain that mental edge and optimize your health, this podcast is for you. We are your hosts. I'm Lindsay, former collegiate athlete, coach, and educator, an educational coach for over 20 years, and a mom of 2 young athletes.
And I'm Stacy, registered dietitian nutritionist of over 18 years and also a mom of 2 young athletes. In this episode, we're talking all about hydration, but not your average drink 8 glasses of water type of advice. We're splashing into the world of peak performance with the one and only Tony Castillo, a sports dietitian who's worked with the University of Florida Gators and the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Tony's on a mission to turn you into an elite performer, whether you're closing deals in the boardroom or chasing MVP status on the field. So get ready to hear from Tony and learn how to hydrate like a pro. Tony, it's so good to have you on today. I don't know if that bio even did you justice, given your background and all that you know in this space, but I'm so excited to have you here and to have listeners just hear from your wide array of experience and storytelling that you have in this space. So thank you.
Stacy, Lindsay, number 1, thank you for having me on. Number 2, hi to Lindsay's mom, because I know she's tuning in, and maybe Lindsay's dad, right? So hopefully, hi, Lindsay's mom.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe he'll tune in now. And thank you for having me on. And the other thing I want to do is I literally brought this out. I know we won't be using the video, but I have these jars of pee. Ooh, you can't really see. It's not really pee, but when I was giving a talk.
Enlightening and disgusting at the same time.
You got to have the jars of pee. That's how you keep kids entertained. Like, I would have talks during COVID, and I remember these talking about hydration, right? Imagine trying to have 5th graders pay attention to a guy talk about nutrition for 10 minutes. Someone asked me to do like a career day, and I was like, how can I entertain 5th graders? It was all on a Zoom call, and I told them, I was like, I had these jars of pee. You can't imagine how many 5th graders were like not paying attention. They all like zoomed in like, wait, is this guy bringing pee on a call?
Percent.
Yeah,
I just spoke their language. You said pee. If you bring up farting, it's done.
It's done. That's it.
Forever. You're their new bestie.
Okay, but so tell us, we're talking about hydration. So why do we care about pee? Why should our listeners care about their pee? And they're all like, wait, a second.
We should care about pee and farting, as Lindsay brought up. Farting means your gut's working. So if you want to have gut health, with this the buzzword, make sure you're farting, all right? Number 2.
Talk about that, Tony. We don't.
No.
That just means that you've got a healthy GI system.
That's it. That's what it's telling us. That's your report card, right? And the thing with your pee is your report card. So the one thing, I know they can't see it, but we're going to talk about it. We have very dark pee. If it looks like a soda, right? A pop, whatever you call it, that dark beverage. If it looks like that, you are dehydrated. And I've had players that have looked exactly that way. There was an MLB player. I remember he went out the day before. He went to go play golf. He decided to drink a couple beers. He tried to do shots of fireballs with his teammates. Well, guess what? The next day he woke up and he had a pitch. And he's like, Tony, come look at my pee. And I was like, why am I looking at your pee? This is really weird.
This is not in the job description when you signed up to the MLB team as the sports dietitian. But
that's the thing. It's just like, I've done USGs, which are US specific gravity. I've done the other pee tests, but this guy was super excited. He's like, oh, Tony, come look at the urinal. I was like, all right, let's go look at the urinal. So I go look at the urinal, and it looks like he had poured Diet Coke down the urinal. And I was like, dude, is this yours, or did you pour something down? He's like, no, dude, I thought you'd see this because every time you do the talks, you've said like you've never seen pee like this. And I'm like, yes, I never want to see pee like this. So
like, this is not okay for you to pitch today.
This is not okay. So I told him that. I spoke to the coach. Coach was like, hey, you're the dietitian, get him hydrated. So I gave him something called Gatorlights, which is a very big, salty, just get him hydrated, right? I gave him as many electrolytes as I could, got him as ready as I could before the game. He went out, and if you know anything about baseball, he gave up 10 runs in the first inning, which is not good. And he had a headache. He felt dizzy, nauseous. The coach pulled him. Obviously, coach gave him a couple words, and we went out, and we got him hydrated. He learned his lesson to not go drinking the day before, or to go golfing and drinking the day before pitching day. Right?
So, and you just said something really important that I hope our parents and athletes tuning in, we talk about this a lot, but we talk about if you are not hydrated, it will impact your performance. And that is really what this guy said. And even at trying to sort of last minute hydrate him, ditch efforts to do all the things, you really weren't able to get him to a place where it wasn't impacting his physical performance. And so the best strategy is always a good, hydration game plan, not trying to like mitigate a bad one.
Absolutely. And as my main thing is hydrate or dihydrate. So he was on team dihydrate that day, not team hydrate. All right.
Tony, you are my new best friend.
I love it, Lindsay.
I love this. Okay. Something that I also want to point out, because as mom, right? A pro baseball player can do that and be that dehydrated and have no clue what's even happening. Our 10 and 11 and 12 and 15-year-olds also have no idea what they're doing. So it is our job as parents to make sure that they are being hydrated, because we can't leave it up to them.
Well, and I'm going to tell a story really quick. My oldest will kill me, but he had practice yesterday and we were running a few minutes late. Well, he's like, he doesn't like to be late. He likes to be 5 minutes early. He's my husband, or he's like, and so we get there and it's like right at time. And he's getting out his big old catcher's bag that he carries now. And he's got his big water bottle for the 2-hour outside practice in the Texas, Houston humidity. And he goes, I'm not going to take my water bottle because I don't want to have to run with it to the train. And I was like, oh, you are taking that water bottle. And the first thought in his mind was, oh, it's too much stuff to carry and I need to hurry to get there. And he would have made in a split second a really bad decision as a young athlete. But as a mom, I was like, I don't care if you look like a pack mule running over there. You are taking that water bottle. And sure enough, Tony, what's funny is I picked him up at 5:45 after 2 hours in like the heat. And I said, hey, are you glad you took that water bottle? And he's like, oh yeah, I needed it.
Yeah.
The preservation skills are not at the top of
No.
the athletes' like list of priorities here.
Yeah, for him, it was, I want to carry something in that moment. Even Lindsay, to your point, even MLB players, even college players, Tony, you've had experience with both of these age groups. They're still trying to figure out, which is one of the reasons why we started SPAN, is our younger kiddos don't have a lot of access to this information. A lot of our college athletes don't even have access to sports dietitians, maybe D1, but D2, D3, they don't all, JUCO don't always. A little bit about, I want to kind of dig into questions for our listeners. And maybe the first question I'll ask is, when it comes to water recommendations broadly, what should that look like for individuals? And Lindsay and I were arguing about this before we got on. Is it 8-ounce glasses a day, you know, that they always tell you? Is it half your body weight in ounces? Tell us what you need for water. And then let's dig in a little bit further to electrolytes. And what are electrolytes and why do you need them, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So the one thing is just going back to the what method, WUT. What is your weight? What is your urine? And what is your thirst? Those are the 3 ways to assess or know if you are dehydrated. So just to finish up with the urine, right? I had the player that had the dark pee. If it looks like apple juice, that means you need some water. If it looks like lemonade, is exactly what you want it to look like. If it looks like water, like if it's clear, you actually need to add electrolytes or decrease your water intake. And this actually happened with another MLB athlete. He was something that was a pitcher. He had full body cramps. And our thought was, no way, this person isn't hydrating. He's just not getting enough water or enough electrolytes. Full body cramps. Well, we did a urine specific gravity. So for everyone that's listening at home, they pee in a cup and I put something in and it checks the gravity in it. Now it's interesting because I've done a lot of these tests. And when I worked at Florida, I remember the football team would always be like, yo, coach, I'm not doing this. I'm not peeing in a cup. What are you testing drugs for me? And I was like, listen, my man, I want to make sure. I just want you to feel your best. I love you, man. I want you to perform at your best. So of course I knew what at Florida, people would put water in the cup and I'd be like, this is 0. I know you put water in here. Do you really want me to go with you in a urinal to watch you pee? No, man. And I'm like, all right, good. So please go pee in a cup. So eventually this player did it. He brings this MLB player, he brings me his pee in a cup and I go to do it. And I'm like, dude, this is water. He's like, no, I swear I peed. I'm like, I'm not going to do a test. This is water. I've seen water 100 times. He's like, I swear, coach. So I'm like, all right. So I tested it and it did have a little bit of gravity. So it was actually his urine. So what we figured out from that was because it looked like water, he wasn't having enough electrolytes, meaning electrolytes are like the sponges in our body that help keep the water in, right? So he was having so much water that he was peeing it all out. And that was actually causing his full body cramps. So you can actually drink too much water. So the way we helped or mitigated that is that we added electrolytes in, helped absorb it, and he started to pitch better, right? So when we do the what method, the urine, we want to make sure it's not too dark. We want to make sure it's not too clear. We want it to look like lemonade. Right? That's
okay, so tell me the acronym for what again? WT.
What is your weight? What is your urine? And what is your thirst? Trust me,
absolutely
that's written down.
Urine is urine color. Thirst, if you're thirsty, you're already 2 to 3% dehydrated. And you may be thinking, 2 to 3%, that's probably not too much. It's been shown to decrease your performance by 10%. So if you have someone on the field that is 100% and you're 90%, I promise you they're going to perform better than you.
Way better than you. So, and you think all that practice time you just spent working out and you go out there dehydrated, you're going to show up at 10% worse performance. Talk to me about the weight ones. Why does weight matter? Let's dig into that a little
So
bit.
that one is where we're going to go into that. Should we be drinking? So our baseline for everyone should be half of our body weight. So let's say your kiddo weighs about 100 pounds. You should be having about 50 ounces of water a day. That doesn't include any of the physical activity that you just mentioned, Stacy, that your son went and carried his water jug with. Like that might be what he needs. That might not be what he needs. So what I like to do is I weigh the athlete before and after 3 practices, 3 training sessions, anything like that. So weight before, weight after. So for every pound they lose, they need 24 ounces of water. Not 16, not 8, 24. So this is when I was working at that's water before electrolytes. There was an offensive lineman I was working with at the University of Florida. This is when it was 2-a-days. We're pre-training camp. They're going through it. He lost 10 pounds that day.
Oh my gosh.
Terrifying. Right? So as you said, the heat in Houston and the humidity and the swamp in Florida, there's a reason it's called the swamp. And that's why it's a competitive advantage to be in the swamp, because when players come here, they cramp, they dehydrate because they forget to hydrate. They don't add that in. So the 10 pounds he's lost, if we just did the math I told you, that's 240 ounces. That's almost 2 gallons of water. There was no way this athlete was going to have 2 gallons of water. Why? Because this was the end of the day, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And if I give them that much water, number one, they probably overhydrate. 2, they're not going to sleep. And we know how important sleep is. That's a whole nother podcast. However, with that, what we did to mitigate that or to help them rehydrate is we added a ton of electrolytes, a ton of salt. So the main electrolytes you have are sodium, potassium, magnesium, and chloride in that order. So sodium is the most important one. So if you drink Prime, if you drink Body Armor, I don't know how loud I need to say it, throw it away.
Can we stop for a second and tell parents why? I'm branded everywhere. Body Armor is branded, and I say this all the time. I'm like, if you're going to drink those, it needs a salt packet.
Yep.
Talk to our athletes about why these are a waste of your money if you're trying to hydrate your kiddo or yourself.
The big thing is that they're high in potassium. The other beverage that a lot of people are starting to stick to with the movement is coconut water and Body Armor are all high in potassium. So potassium is what's used for people with high blood pressure to dehydrate them, pee out sodium, right? Because it's a fluid problem. So
they're leaching the sodium to try to help, create that balance in the blood. Yep.
So when we think about a high potassium drinks, water, Body Armor, or Prime, you're dehydrating yourself.
Well, and that might be Tony for like an adult who's not exercising, and they're trying to normalize. It might actually even be okay for a young child who isn't an athlete. But when we're talking about our performance level athletes, our kiddos that are working out 1, 2, 3 times a day, if they are reaching for those beverages, they are not actually hydrated.
Well, so Tony brought up Florida. My son's team just came back from Destin, Florida for a World Series tournament. He's a catcher, but the first day of the tournament, he was not drinking. And that's my fault for not making sure that his water bottle kept being filled. But he was not drinking enough, and he was so sick that night. And I was like, you're dehydrated. What did you drink? But
think about this, Lindsay. They're out in the sun. Like, think about all these kiddos who are playing. They're doing these World Series tournaments, or they're going doing club volleyball tournaments for a weekend.
7, 8, 9 games.
And when they're not playing, they're hanging out with their friends, swimming in the pool or swimming at the beach. And you're talking even more dehydration now.
But I bought this 2-gallon jug, like Stanley thing or whatever, put it in the dugout, and I bought the old school Gatorade container, and I'm that mom who's like, every game it's in the dugout with cups. I don't care. Like, the kids need that.
I love the what method. So it's weight, it's urine, it's thirst. Okay, you've kind of told us now what we need for a baseline. Let's dig into electrolytes more. Why sodium, why potassium, magnesium, let's talk about those and dig in a little bit more. Let's help our athletes understand it better, because I think oftentimes we reach for water. And honestly, this is because I'm going to make my oldest son listen to this, because I tell him, after about 45 minutes of strenuous workout, you need to replenish your electrolytes. And he's so funny because he's like, I'm fine, I just need water. And I'm like, no, and Tony's going to tell you why.
So I love water. I think it's great. We do need to talk about electrolytes. When do we need them? And the other thing that's probably demonized or makes people scared is we hear Gatorade, we hear sugar. And it's like, oh, I'm giving my kid sugar. However, those sugars that are in Gatorade, that are in Powerades, that are in Pedialyte. So these sports drinks, they help the body, the gut absorb water. Without those sugars, that glucose, it doesn't absorb as well. So if you have a Gatorade Zero for someone that's working out under 45 minutes, great. But above 45 minutes to 90 minutes, you need a G2, something with a little bit of sugar in it. And anything over 90 minutes of continuous activity, that's when we need that full-blown Gatorade, right? That's when we need that sugar. So if you're an athlete that is just playing a game that day, maybe you do half a Gatorade with water or something like that. But you need those electrolytes, you need that sugar both to help the absorption of the water, to get that sponge-like activity of keeping the water in. So absolutely. Now, where a lot of athletes veer to are some of these more higher sodium beverages, which I always say, so this happened when I was at Florida. I was so lucky, as you may have heard, University of Florida, our team is the Gators. Gatorade. So we had a great opportunity to partner with Gatorade, and we got to see all these really cool things. So working with that football team, and we did the hydration testing, which is why Hydrate or Dihydrate is my passion. I got to see the different models, right? So they did a high, medium, low. So they tested these players, sweat tested to see what was the high rate of sodium, what was the low range of sodium, and what was the medium rate of, so what most people sweat. The difference was 10 milligrams. If you don't know what that means, it's a very, 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 very small amount, right? So typical Gatorade has about 140 milligrams per bottle. For the high sweaters, it was 150. For the low sweaters, it was 130. For the potassium, it was anywhere between 60 to 80 milligrams. So again, it's a very small amount. It's not a big amount. So when you see these packets that have 1,000 milligrams of sodium, that's way more than most of us need. An easy way to know if you're a salty sweater, one, if you wear a sports bra or on your shirts or even on your ball cap, you see that white line. Yep, that means you need salt. You need salt. There's even athletes I've worked with that have had little salt crystals form on their face.
A normal.
But people sweat different. I think it's really interesting that some people barely sweat and some sweat a ton. Again, this goes back to the importance of why, if they do really want to be competitive at a young age, we say go get a sports dietitian, because the reality is they're going to help you personalize it for you. And there's a lot of great information out there. Even what we're sharing today is broad information. Nutrition is so personal. And so just to your point of like being able to measure pre, post, being able to work with someone that can personalize that plan for you. Can we talk about the other electrolytes too?
Magnesium and
Potassium. So when we talk about potassium, people always think about a banana. Actually, potatoes are very high in potassium as well. And just to go back on that salty sweater, one thing I see with youth athletes is they don't eat enough. So instead of even doing an electrolyte beverage, which you can do, you can also do salty snacks post-workout. So I love including pretzels, right? That's an easy way to knock that in, right? And people demonize processed foods. I will say for athletes, it helps them get that sodium replenishment. And with kids, especially when they're younger, under puberty, they don't have good thermoregulation. You see these kids walking around in hoodies when it's like the middle of summer, and I'm like, my guy, what is going on? Like, are you okay? I'm looking like a rotisserie chicken. I look like a Krispy Kreme glazed donut just ready to be eaten, and they're just in a hoodie. So that thermoregulation, that thirst mechanism that we were talking about earlier, they may not be aware of it. So they may not be a salty sweater now, but they may grow into it. And not only that, they're just not getting enough hydration because their body just isn't there yet. So the processed foods, I'm not saying everyone needs to be on them. Let's talk about the spectrum. When we can utilize them with athletes, they're burning so much energy. They need that salt, right? If you're someone who has blood pressure problems as a parent, then you probably don't need as many processed foods, right? And there's a big difference between ultra processed and somewhat processed, right? But that's a whole other podcast we could talk about. So the other one that really, really comes into this for especially youth athletes is magnesium. Why? So many parents use melatonin. So magnesium is helpful for sleep. So if we sweat out sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and we aren't replenishing the magnesium, then we have sleep problems. And not only that, I don't have my phone on me, but the phone, the blue lights keep you up at night. Trust me, the athletes I worked with, even the pro athletes, they love Twitch when they're relaxing on time, watching other people play games. And I'm like, you're a pro athlete. People watch you play baseball. They're like, yes, but I want to watch XYZ play Fortnite. And I'm like, you need to get sleep, not watch Fortnite. So a lot of these youth athletes do the same thing. Exactly. However, with the screens, parents are giving them melatonin gummies. And many of the sleep doctors I've worked with pro athletes, melatonin is the last thing we should be giving our kids. We produce it naturally. So youth athletes struggle with sleep because they're losing magnesium, right? And then they give them the melatonin, or they don't take away the phones, which that's everyone's own prerogative. I know phones are very helpful.
Miss Tony, please keep going.
It's just that the sleep is ruining it. So if they're not getting sleep, they're not recovering well. And then at the end of the day, they're not going to perform well. So
we don't talk about this, but giving melatonin supplements, and we had a whole sleep podcast on this with HEB, it dilutes your body's ability to naturally produce melatonin, which then will further impact sleep. So you almost have to then use a supplement. That's number one. Number two is, again, supplements are not well regulated. And so some of the research when looking at these melatonin supplements, some of them had 300 times the amount of melatonin. Now you're crippling your body's ability to naturally produce that. And then some of them people were buying and they were tested and they didn't have any of the melatonin. So you're not really getting what you're paying for. And so preach, like this is a good one.
So
The
where do you set limits on, for sure, screen time?
Yes.
We always, I collect the phone. Like my 11-year-old has one and give me the thing. You're no reason to have it after 8 p.m. at all. But where do you get magnesium naturally? Like what do you recommend for athletes to replenish outside of what's in the energy drink?
there is so many things you can get. So there's avocado, dark chocolate, spinach, bananas, almonds, black beans, nuts, yogurt.
Yeah.
I always love recommending for athletes, like right before bed, a yogurt drink. Not only does it have some protein, it can have some magnesium, help them fall asleep, and also give them those extra calories that they need before bed. So those are just some of the top magnesium foods. And again, as you
And
mentioned,
a smoothie would be a
that is some of the best. You can even use a lot of these cereals have magnesium. So the natural grains. So cereal before bed was one of the biggest hits when I was working at Florida for most of the athletes because it's just easy to do. Milk, cereal, you're good to go.
Yeah, and those get demonized too. I feel like cereals get demonized too. But again, going back to your point earlier about not the advice for a general adult who's probably managing some sort of health issue and the advice for an athlete or a young kid, they aren't the same. And it's why nutrition has to be so personalized, Tony, because even thinking about potassium, and the medications that an adult may be on that may then cause them to need very different dietary needs than their young kiddo who's an athlete. Nutrition is not one size fits all. And that's why I love your expertise, like breaking it down so that it makes so much sense. So let's talk calcium, because I feel like I cannot stress enough that we only build bones for so long. Talk about the importance of calcium to hydration, but just also the importance of calcium in the whole diet, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. So when we talk about calcium, there's so many foods that are rich in calcium, right? The number one thing we think about calcium is dairy, cheese, there it is. All wonderful things, right? For non-dairy sources, for anyone that has a dairy allergy, I would say leafy greens, fortified foods, like some of these plant alternatives, fish, tofu, which are typically not things kids eat, which is why I typically steer them into actually having these dairy products, right? I'm a big fan of chocolate milk post-workout. It has the 3 R's of recovery: refuel, repair, rehydrate. So the refuel, you got to have carbs. Repair, you got to have the protein. Rehydrate, it's got the sodium, it's got the potassium, it's got the calcium, it's got the magnesium. It's the perfect drink.
He does it just in that voice for his athletes, which is funny.
I see you doing that voice too,
Yeah.
like MLB players. Yeah.
And you said, we were warming up for the podcast and you were like, oh, even the MLB players love it when we get into character and we do the fun
They love
things.
it.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I still have a lot of colleagues that work in the MLB and they have things that they say and I'm just like, yes, I know that's what works. They have on their phone a Bristol stool chart. So Lindsay, that's what poop looks like. I know Stacy may know, and it's pretty gross that he walks around with it and he just randomly goes up to players like, hey, what does your ish look like? Right? Because on
the chart looks like your poo. And then let's talk about your nutrition.
Because it can go back to hydration. If it's constipated, if it looks like marbles, if it looks like caterpillars, you need to have more water. If it looks like hot dogs and snakes, go for it. If it looks like soft serve yogurt or splatters, we need to get some more fiber in. But again, that's a whole nother conversation. It's just, we got to have fun with it. That's the one thing with nutrition. It shouldn't be stressful. And I can tell you, I grew up in my own household where my mom did all the different diets. It was super stressful. We got to keep it fun for people. Right? We can't keep stressing or fear mongering. That's the only way we're going to help them actually perform at their best. I had a 13-year-old athlete when I was working at the Blue Jays, a Dominican guy. My parents were from my Dominican Republic. He didn't speak a lick of English. I did a whole talk for them on hydration. And he said to me, Tony, there is no way for me to drink water here in DR. There's no water filling station. So I put my operations hat on. We put water jugs all around the facility for these 13-year-olds. And when I came back the next month, he's like, I felt my performance way better. And now he's playing in the big leagues. He took those small things that we learned and made fun, and he's applied it to where he is now. And that's the true passion behind it, because we want people to be successful. We want people to do their best. And it really just takes making it fun. It's not about giving them military-like style like this way. It's how do we make it fit their life, right? How do we make it fit the foods they actually enjoy, that they will actually eat?
Yeah, because nobody
I
wants
love
to
that.
eat the junk you don't like. Like my sister and I talk about this all the time. It needs to be something that's also enjoyable, because yeah, who wants to stick to anything that is like feels like you're torturing yourself? Well, probably a few other questions that we have for you. Yeah.
I do have one. So we had posted a while back this summer because I've seen it firsthand, the difference between dehydration and heat stroke. And so what would be, because I know heat exhaustion and sometimes dehydration, those symptoms look very similar. So what would you say to help people identify the differences?
What I would do is just first assess how your child is. And if you're a coach, you know your players. The huge difference is that fatigue piece. Like if you immediately see them fatiguing or almost dry heaving, those would be the two things I really see when it's going towards to that heat exhaustion. That's where I'd be like, hey, we need to pull you back. I remember when I was playing high school football, they'd have the little water spigots, and it's definitely not the cleanest water. Definitely had some bacteria in there, but it made me grow stronger, you know? Definitely gave me the calcium from what I needed. Yeah, exactly.
Building your immunity.
That's it. Just drinking it right out the spigot.
Yeah.
I think it's now on the coaches, the players, the staff, even your own teammates. Just look out for each other, right? In a time where everyone's just told to worry about themselves, look at for other people because they will help you and you will help them. So I think for me personally, when I see heat exhaustion, it's just that immediate hit. It almost feels like, oh, I can't do anything. And you know you've eaten well that day. You know you've actually had enough water. You're like, oh man, something's not right here. That's when you need to pull back and cool down.
You said two things, Tony, that I want to just dig into a little bit for listeners. When you feel extremely tired and it's quickly onset, so that fatigue, and when you feel you could vomit, those are not normal things, and those don't deal with dehydration. Those are something's going on with regulation of body temperature or something else is going on. And so those are really good ones. And look out for your teammates. Look out for sometimes you're disoriented a little bit. So if you notice that for your teammate, tell your coach. If you notice that, make sure that you're sharing it with someone that can help a parent.
Yeah.
So we talked about water we should drink. We talked about electrolytes and why we need them. Using the what method, so they make sure they're getting in their daily intake of water, making sure they're looking at their urine, making sure they're considering their thirst. Let's talk about thirst, because one of the common things that I always tell athletes is like, if you're thirsty, you probably already are behind in your hydration game plan. Talk about that a little bit and help people. How should they be thinking about thirst?
Yeah, because younger kids will say they're not thirsty all the time. I mean, I would imagine most of the kids walking around my middle school campus are borderline dehydrated because they don't think they're thirsty.
And it's not cool to carry your water bottle, Lindsay.
I know. Well, they do. They like carrying them. They like getting out of class
The
to go
stickers,
to the fill stations too. But I just don't think that they don't recognize that.
So I would say, especially with youth athletes, it's because of the introduction of caffeine. As adults, we all drink, well, not all, I should take that back. Many of us drink coffee, caffeinated beverages, sodas, teas, all those things.
Me, as I'm holding my coffee right now, Tony, is that what's happening here?
No judgment here. Caffeine has a lot of research that can help performance. With these youth athletes, though, they see their friend drinking a Celsius or a Prime Energy and they think, I should try this out, right? So what happens is that caffeine will dehydrate us. Now, caffeine only dehydrates if you're someone who doesn't use it all the time. So as a habitual user of caffeine, so that means someone uses it every day. I drink coffee every day. It doesn't dehydrate you. It actually counts towards your fluid. But if you're someone new to caffeine or use it once a week or once a month or once every few weeks, however that is, it will actually dehydrate you. But if you're someone who uses it every day, it won't. But with these kids, they use caffeine. So now they're super attentive to whatever they're doing or super hyper. They forget about thirst. They forget about food and then they crash. So with that thirst signal, we can't even really trust it. When we are thirsty though, if you feel like you are thirsty, you lose 20% of the power in your legs. I don't care what sport you play, you use your legs. I've yet to know a sport that you only use your hands. Heck, I was in the band in high school too. We still had to march around. You still got to sit in a seat. Like your legs still got to work for something, okay? So when we talk about athletes, we need to be that number one player on the field and be our number one teammate for everyone else. So showing up dehydrated is the number one way you're not only not showing up for yourself, but for your teammates. So when we think about thirst, as mentioned earlier, that 2 to 3%, which doesn't seem like a lot, it reduces our overall 10% performance. And then it reduces the power in our legs and it increases our chances of fatigue. And fatigue is tiredness. So we're tired. We have no power in our legs. We have a headache. Our performance is down. What's the easiest way to fix this? Hydrate or dehydrate. Literally carry that water bottle around, right? So I know I went on caffeine and got to there. It's really just how we see a lot of these youth athletes going through those energy drinks because they're like, well, I see my friend doing it. I know it's going to give me better energy. You know what? You actually need food, water, and sleep.
Yeah, that's a great one because I feel like, again, it's one of these things where we insert something to fix a problem, but it actually creates a larger problem long term. And I do think caffeine's a good one. I want to stick on this one for a minute because I feel like a lot of our middle school, high school athletes are getting marketed to by influencers, these like Alani New or whatever these fun, popular, what energy drink are, Celsius.
And especially because Jessica Biel told us that, a lot of the ingredients in these drinks are not good for you.
Or even safe or approved for athletes to be taking.
Opposite of what you need.
So again, and I think sometimes, Tony, like I want you to drive this message home for our parents. Parents are buying them because the kiddo is tired. So instead of focusing on, am I managing screen time? Are they getting sleep? Are they hydrating? Are they getting rest days? They're like, hey, drink this, energy drink so that we can get through the next 4 games of your weekend. Can you just hit on why, from a holistic athlete perspective, that's a bad strategy and sort of what that does and dominoes of making it a vicious cycle?
So what I've seen is the parent gives the kid a melatonin. They fall asleep. They wake up super groggy. They don't know why. Then they invest in skipping breakfast. Then they're like, here, take the Celsius with you. They drink the Celsius. They feel over-caffeinated. They might eat school lunch if they feel like it, if it's pizza. If it's not pizza, then they're not eating it. Or if it's chicken nuggets. Then they go to practice. They think, why are they tired? They get home or in the car. They eat every snack that's available. They eat everything that's for dinner. Then they can't go to sleep because they're on their phones and back to the melatonin. It's been shown that if you sleep less than 7 hours a night, it increases your injury risk by 70%.
Oh my gosh. Say that again for our listeners, for our parents who are not thinking about this for their children and for our kiddos. One more time.
If you sleep less than 7 hours a night, adult or child, you increase your injury risk by 70%. So if you're looking to get injured, sleep less than 7 hours a night. If you want to be on the sidelines, then sleep. Exactly. Keep on your phone, keep twitching, keep TikToking. Go for it. Hey, if you want to be injured and be on the sidelines and not play, that's the prime way to do it.
Yeah, we've got to take things to sleep because we're not resting. And then we've got to take things to get up because we're groggy because we took something to sleep because we're not resting, which is you're inspiring. I'm going to bring our sleep expert on and do a
Water, sleep
pod.
Don't complicate it. And the thing is, like, parents are doing these things and they're doing it because they love their kids. They want the best for the kids. It's not out of place of judgment. I want to state that as well. I get it. I have kids. I want them to sleep. It's a struggle for me. Heck, I have to wake up early to work out if I want to work out, right? And if they come in the middle of the night and they're like, Papa, and I'm like, oh no, not tonight, please.
Please.
Dad needs sleep. And it's a vicious cycle. And so many kids are now going to the ER because they're overdosing on melatonin because they take too many gummies or they've had too many energy drinks and their heart is just beating out of their chest. And again, it's just the cycle that we just tend to forget because we get into the habit of giving them these things or allowing them to have it when this is the barrier we should have, right? Or teaching them that self-regulation, which is very difficult. It's time consuming. That's the reason we became parents.
Yeah. I'm going to take us on a quick detour and then I'm going to wrap us up, I promise. But while I have you, I want to ask you this question because I feel like it's just fun. And again, this is the episode I'm going to force my oldest to listen to because it's such good information. But can you talk for a second about, because we had this whole argument as a family yesterday, protein drinks. So an athlete gets done with an afternoon workout and dinner is ready and they're trying to drink a protein drink before they actually have their meal. Talk about some of the science behind why getting that meal in and the nutrition that you get from those whole high quality foods is such a better strategy than what you would get from drinking a protein drink and then being too full to actually get the nutrition, the fluids, the micronutrients, the protein from that meal. Can you just tell people why that's a bad strategy?
Most youth athletes don't need a protein drink. They can get it through food. Getting it through food is better. Every study has shown food. So if they want to have a drink post a training pre-dinner, chocolate milk. Just mentioned it earlier. It's all 3. It has 8 grams of protein.
And then you can eat your meal. Your mom's so wonderfully prepared for you that is delicious and nutritious. Come on, brother.
Not only that, one of my coolest experiences when I went to go visit the University of Tennessee, I got to go through their fueling station for their football athletes, and they had something called liquid gold. And I'm like, what is liquid gold? It was full fat chocolate milk. And I tried it and I could drink that all day.
Oh, that's
not good for me though.
Have you tried Nutopia, Tony? If not, I'm going to mail it to you. But HEB makes this like creamy. It's fortified with higher protein, higher calcium, a little bit lower sugar, but it's a 2% milk. And it is the most creamy, delicious thing it's heavenly.
All day. I drink that all day. I love chocolate milk. So with these protein drinks, only time I could think of an athlete having to use that if you were to put it into a smoothie because they can't eat something, right? And I don't like meal replacements. That's why I'm saying in something, not just by itself. And the other thing with these proteins, you want to make sure it's third-party certified. What does that mean? Whatever's on the label is in the bottle, and whatever's on the bottle is actually what's in there. So I've had athletes that I've worked with, they've got sent proteins, they've got sent sleep supplements, and there's things in it like methamphetamine. So for those that don't know that, that's something that keeps you up instead of putting you down. The two third-party that they should be looking at is the NSF for Sport, which they go nsfforsport.org, or Informed Choice. So you need to get food first. Every sports dietitian will recommend food first. The only time you should supplement is if you've hit your food first. You can't outwork a bad diet, unfortunately. And supplements make the 1 to 3% change. If you're not doing the other 99 to 97% of things, it's not going to work. And my analogy I use for this supplement is if I had a donut, I'm a big donut guy. So if I got a fresh donut with the right amount of ingredients, the right amount of glaze, and really crappy sprinkles, you could brush the sprinkles off and you'll still eat the donut. The sprinkles are the supplements. You can just brush it off, right? And you'll still have a good donut. Now, if the donut has too little yeast, it's undercooked, but it has the best sprinkles in the world, that donut still tastes like crap.
That's a
So guess
terrible
what?
donut.
That's what your fueling is. If you're just putting the really nice supplements, which are going to be a greens powder or protein, that's just the sprinkles. You're missing out on the whole donut. And imagine trying to perform when you're a half soggy donut. Not going to happen.
Just sprinkle.
You're just eating sprinkles. It sounds good, but I promise you it's not going to work.
This has been too much fun and too much good information for our listeners. Again, I knew that this is how it would be. You're a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for spending this time with us today. This will not be our last time that we have you on.
No, thanks for having me on.
We had so much fun, and we also learned a lot, and I hope our listeners learned equally as much. But before we let you go, is there anything else that you would share with our athletes and with our parents in the long time that you've been a sports dietitian, that you've worked personally with athletes, college level, D1 and professional athletes? Like, what would you share if you could hit something home with these parents and athletes?
Hydrate or dihydrate, fuel with purpose, on purpose. And the last thing that we touched base on before we hit record, which I just want to talk about, if you're someone who believes in God and has faith, so do these pro athletes. We were talking about it before that we wanted to kind of bring it all together. And I could say that when I was working in pro sports, I remember every Sunday they'd bring a pastor in and a lot of guys would come in and talk about God, talk about faith. And I found myself going to it and I was scared because I was like, man, I'm the staff, not the player. But this is a space of openness and learning and not judgment. And I found so much love within that group of athletes because they just wanted to help others and they wanted to perform at their best. And they found that through faith and found a great way of collaborating. So thank you for listening in and knowing that that overall journey, we are a piece of it and that God is the one that's in full control.
I feel like you wrapped it up so wonderfully. When we think about our faith community, we are a bunch of people who are trying to be more like Christ, to actually like fulfill these things he's called us to.
Tony, you'll really appreciate this. So my son's team won the World Series in Destin last week.
Congrats.
But after the games, and we have a player whose dad had a swimming accident and who's paralyzed. And so we took pictures on the beach with the team after in their uniforms, running into the ocean with their coach. And his wheelchair couldn't get down to the water. But all of our dads were carrying him down so that he could watch his kid have these pictures taken. And I told the kids, you should look and see what your dads are doing right now, because that means more right now than anything else. Having this player's dad be a part of this, and because above anything else, you're going to be good humans and good people.
Yeah.
And so
at that point, the dads were teammates in the same way.
And it just made it all like we are modeling for our kids. We have to show them what that is. And so I love that you talked about how the pro athletes, their faith, that's a driving force.
Okay, you're coming back on a whole nother podcast for just that. Can we have?
I feel the chills right now. I'm not even kidding. Like, I just envision, like in the Bible, they lower down the guy from the roof into to see Jesus. And I just think about how beautiful that is. When I work with the athletes that are top tier, they know it's more than sports.
Yeah,
it's a lot
those are
more.
the people you want in your circle. Yeah, those are your Friday night friends, is what we call them.
Absolutely.
But
I love it.
you got to have great Friday night friends. Well, thank you so much.
Tony, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. For future podcasts where we will bring on exciting guests in the sports world, like spotlight coaches, athletic directors, former and current collegiate and professional sports players, sports dietitians, sports psychologists, and more.
And how you think can transform your athletic performance and overall well-being. You're an athlete, coach, or fitness enthusiast looking to gain that mental edge and optimize yours for you.
Stay tuned to learn more about how you can join our community and get more exclusive content. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X at @span_athletics.
Until next time, stay faithful, stay fueled, and remain focused on your goals.